Hey guys, this is Brother Scott with the Potter's House in Paris, Tennessee, and I want to make a video today, uh, going back and revisiting the information that we shared with the video earlier this week, and that is Philippians 2, verses 10 and 11. I don't want to go back and rehash the verses. I want to look at a word that is in those verses, and we kind of briefly talked about it uh, before, but I want to go back and make sure that everybody has a good understanding or an understanding of what this word is. Now, in the um, I had used the Complete Jewish Bible, and I made another post, I think, using the Sefer. And actually, what I'm going to make is a video regarding the verse that I posted separate from the video that we did. The video that we did was where Paul had called Yeshua Lord, and that's really where I believe it probably started, was the things that have come into us. And in a post I had made another place, I used a verse in the Sefer. The Sefer, everybody should be familiar with the Sefer. And people come back and said that the Sefer was a corrupted version, and that is a person's personal um, opinion on what version is corrupted, what version is not corrupted. But in the scripture that we're going to look at, that I use the Sefer for, we're going to use the Complete Jewish Bible today to look at it, and it pretty much plays out the same way. Philippians 2 and 10, let's look at verse 11, 10 and 11, let's look at verse 11. It says, every tongue will acknowledge that Yeshua the Messiah is, and the Complete Jewish Bible says Adonai. We're aware that that is maybe a generic, but the word that belongs there would be Yahweh. And the issue comes with us placing Yahweh there. Now, the Greek word that is used here is Kurios. Kurios, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And I want to go back and show you another couple examples. Of course, we have the photocopies that we have of the Septuagint, where when they come upon the name Yahweh, they use the Greek word Kurios. Of course, I don't think you're going to see it real well in the camera, but there's a black arrow. I think I've circled the word there in those photocopies of where that was used. So we said that this word in the Hebrew scriptures in the Tanakh, when the Septuagint was written, the translators added, when they come up on Yahweh, they use the word Kurios. Well, that's where the dispute came from, was us adding Yahweh there. So Kurios is Strong's number 2962, and this is the way that Strong's defines the word. It is a masculine noun. It means might, power, lord, master, owner. But it says also the New Testament Greek equivalent for the Old Testament Hebrew, and Strong's is going to say Jehovah. We'll say Yahweh. So Strong's says that this word Kurios was placed and is the equivalent to the Hebrew word Yahweh. We can look again at another one. So we've got 1, 2, 3 witnesses here that Kurios was used in reference to Yahweh. The Strong's defines, or Thayer defines it, the word Kurios, this way, same words, 2962. says it means he to whom a person or thing belongs, about which he has power of deciding. It means master, lord. It means the possessor or disposer of a thing. The owner, one who has control of the person. The master. It says the state, talking about the government. It says this word kurios stands for the sovereign or the chief. So here we have witness 4 of what this means. I want you to remember that it means not only might and power, but it is the possessor or disposer of a thing. It is the one who owns a thing, that belongs to a thing in a government, which we are all, if you're watching this video, you're aware that Yeshua is coming back to set up a government, that it means the sovereign or the chief. It refers to the king. So that is 4 witnesses. And then the Blue Letter Bible says this about the word Kurios. When referring to the true God, the New Testament sometimes uses the Greek word Kurios, translated as Lord. Kurios is used a number of different ways in the New Testament. However, on a number of occasions, it is the Greek equivalent to the Hebrew word Yahweh. So here we have another witness showing that it is the Greek equivalent to the word Yahweh. And then, since we're using the complete Jewish Bible today, pulled off the shelf the Jewish New Testament commentary. And this is what Rabbi Stern says regarding of course, he's saying Adonai here in Philippians 2 and 11. He says the Greek word kurios can mean anything from the tetragrammaton, the Yod He Vav He, Yahweh, the personal name of God, which he says I've rendered as Adonai in the Jewish New Testament. He goes on to say, but because this scripture in Philippians is a quote from Isaiah 45:23, he says his words are, because Isaiah 45:23, which is in its own context applies to Yahweh, is quoted in verse 10, reference to Yeshua. This is what he says. I believe this verse teaches that Yeshua the Messiah is Yahweh. So here's your other reference, that here in this scripture, all these people say that the word can be used as the equivalent to the Hebrew word Yahweh. David Stern says that he believes because Isaiah is being used and quoted here by Paul, that Paul is indicating that Yeshua the Messiah is Yahweh. So I want us to look at something else real quick. And there's 2 scriptures, because those that I've heard from that want, it's not but 2 people that have contacted me, have said that this is incorrect. Let's look at Matthew 6:24 and Luke 6:13. This is Yeshua speaking, and we're not going to read both these because they say the same thing. It says, no man can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. And if you look at these scriptures, it's a period. So after the word other, he ended his statement. He's moving on to another thought. But this word masters that's here is the Greek word kurios. So it means masters. It can mean owner, or the person who's got the powers to do what the other definition said, but it's not referring to Yeshua himself, and it's not referring to Yahweh. He is making a statement. No servant can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. He's talking about masters of people, common man, and Yeshua, no matter how a person wants to twist it, cannot make Yeshua just a common man. So we have here in Paul's writings clear understanding that Yeshua is Yahweh. He is Yahweh in the flesh. And we're told this in the Gospels, this is what he is. Yahweh in the flesh. But there are some that want to separate the two, and I just want kind of simple things to kind of pull it together. Is we are told that Yeshua is coming back, and he's going to set up his kingdom and be ruler of that kingdom. Let's see who Zechariah says is going to come back and be the ruler of that world, who's going to come back and fight for his people. Zechariah chapter 14 verse 3 says, "Then Yahweh will go out and fight against those nations, fighting as on a day of battle. On that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which lies to the east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in half from east to west to make a huge valley. Half of the mountain will move toward the north, and half of it toward the south." So we are taught and even said that Yeshua is the one coming back. Zechariah plainly says that it is Yahweh. Here again, we're drawing these two together and showing that Yeshua is Yahweh. There's not two separate people that are going to come back and fight and establish a kingdom. If we go on down to verse 9, it says, and here it is. "Then Adonai will be king. Then Yahweh will be king over the whole world. On that day, Yahweh will be the only one, and his name will be the only name." That name of Yahweh. Yeshua and Yahweh are the same person. And even verse 9 tells us who is going to be king, who is going to rule. It says he will be king and rule over the whole world. Well, those who want to separate Yeshua from Yahweh give you the impression that Yahweh is just going to hand a scepter over to Yeshua, and he's going to sit back and watch while Yeshua runs the show. The prophets, Amos 3 and 7 says, "Surely Yahweh does nothing without telling his prophets." Zechariah is the prophet, and Yahweh does not indicate that he's given up his kingship. And here again, let me just stress this point. Yeshua is Yahweh. And let's go to a little bit even further, more near the front. Let's go to Exodus chapter 15. Exodus 15 and verse 18. Very short scripture that just kind of goes hand in hand with Zechariah. Zechariah would have been familiar with the book of Exodus. Now remember, Zechariah says that Yahweh will be king. Yahweh will rule the world. Yahweh will be one. His name will be one. Exodus 15 and 18 says Yahweh will reign forever and ever. So it doesn't say that Yahweh is stepping off to the side and giving everything to Yeshua as a separate person. Here again, I cannot stress enough that Yeshua is Yahweh. Yeshua is Yahweh. But I want us to look at a word here in this verse. The word reign is the word malach. And it's a verb meaning to rule and a verb meaning to be king. Revelation, book of Revelation, I don't have it right here in front of me, but it says that the rider on the white horse that's coming back with his saints and to fight for his people. On his vesture is written, I believe, King of Kings. So this is a clear indication that Yeshua is Yahweh, because he is going to be king. Exodus 15 states that. Zechariah 14 states that. He is going to be king. He is going to rule. I do not see, if you're going to separate these, not make Yeshua Yahweh and make him separate from Yahweh, then you've got the Son ruling over the Father, and that just doesn't work. You pretty much got the Son disposing of the Father, and that does not play out in the definition of these words and in the scriptures of these words. It is an impossibility. The Bible, I don't care what version you use, the complete Jewish Bible, the Sefer Bible, if you want to use the NASB, if you want to use the NIV, the NLT, the King James, the One New Man Bible, it's all going to agree when you begin to study it out what the truth of the matter is. So I just wanted to make this short video, 16 minutes, 17 minutes, but there's just sometimes you've got to take the time, and if something the Lord's Yahweh's impressing something upon you, then you've just got to get it out there. Hope that this is helpful to you, and as always, we wish you shalom. Shalom.